Atrahasis exceedingly wise, Chaldean account of Genesis. Tablet 1 contains a creation myth about the Sumerian gods, Anu, Enlil, and Enki, gods of sky, wind, and water, when gods were in the ways of men, according to its incipit, following the cleromancy, casting of lots. Sky is ruled by Anu, earth by Enlil, and the freshwater sea by Enki. Enlil assigned junior divines to do farm labor and maintain the rivers and canals. But after 40 years, the lesser gods, or denegars, rebelled and refused to do strenuous labor. Instead of punishing the rebels, Enki, who was also the kind, wise counselor of the gods, suggested that humans be created to do the work. The mother goddess, Mamai, is assigned the task of creating humans by shaping clay figurines mixed with the flesh and blood of the slain god Gashtui, a god who had intelligence. His name means ear or wisdom. All the gods in turn spit upon the clay. After 10 months, a specially made womb breaks open and humans are born. Tablet 1 continues with the legends about overpopulation and plagues. Atrahasis is mentioned at the end of Tablet 1. Tablet 2 begins with more overpopulation of humans and the god Enlil, sending first famine and drought at formulaic intervals of 1,200 years to reduce that population. In the epic, Enlil is depicted as a nasty, capricious god, while Enki is depicted as a kind, helpful god, perhaps because priests of Enki were writing and copying the story. Tablet 2 is mostly damaged, but ends with Enlil's decision to destroy humankind with a flood and Enki bound by an oath to keep the plan secret. Tablet 3 of the Atrahasis epic contains the flood story. This is the part that was adapted in Tablet 11 of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Tablet 3 of Atrahasis tells how the god Enki warns the hero Atrahasis, extremely wise, of Shurappak, speaking through a reed wall, suggestive of an oracle, to dismantle his house, perhaps to provide a construction site, and build a boat to escape the flood planned by the god Enlil to destroy humankind. The boat is to have a roof like Apsu, a subterranean freshwater realm presided over by the god Enki, upper and lower decks, and to be sealed with bitumen. Atrahasis boards the boat with his family and animals and seals the door. The storm and the flood begin. Even the gods are afraid. In Tablet 3, lines 7 and 9, the words river and riverbank are used, which probably means the Euphrates rivers, because Atrahasis is listed in WB 62 as a ruler of Shurappak, which was on the Euphrates River. After 7 days, the flood ends and Atrahasis offers sacrifice to the gods. Enlil is furious with Enki over violating his oath, but Enki denies violating his oath and argues, "I made sure life was preserved." Enki and Enlil agree on their other means for controlling the human population. Kolbring Bible, Book 2, chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8, seems to be retelling much of what the Gilgamesh epic is talking about. And obviously there are some changes, significant ones. However, coming across the Gilgamesh epic, this was mentioned, and I wanted to add this with it. And obviously it has less information than the others. If the Kolbring Bible is written in ancient Egyptian, then yes, this backs up a lot of the story, giving it some authenticity. However, if it turns out to be done during the Middle Ages, well, obviously that means they could have used these texts to come up with the story that they came up with. Obviously, this is one of those what-if things, and obviously there's no way to prove one way or the other whether or not this text is real, or if it has been just copied and modified from these other texts that are considered ancient. So I will leave it up to you to make that decision. Personally, I don't see a problem with believing that the Bible seems to cover this. The Kolbring Bible seems to cover this. Atrahasis in history. A few general histories can be attributed to the Mesopotamian Atrahasis by ancient sources. These should generally be considered mythology, but they do give an insight into the possible origins of the character. The Epic of Gilgamesh labels Ultrahasis as the son of Abaru-Tatu, king of Sharapak, on Tablet 11. Gilgamesh spoke to Utnapishtim, Atrahasis, the faraway. O man of Sharapak, son of Abaru-Tatu. The instructions of Sharapak instead label Atrahasis under the name Ziusudra as the son of the eponymous Sharapak, who himself is labeled as the son of Abaru-Tatu. At this point, we are left with two possible fathers, Abaru-Tatu or Sharapak. Many available tablets comprising the Sumerian king lists support the Epic of Gilgamesh. By omitting Sharapak as a ruler of Sharapak, these lists imply an immediate flood after and during the rule of Abaru-Tatu. These lists also make no mention of Atrahasis under any name. However, WB62 lists a different and rather interesting chronology. Here, Atrahasis is listed as a ruler of Sharapak and Gadug priest, preceded by his father Sharapak, who is in turn preceded by his father Ubra-Tutu. WB62 would therefore lend support to the instructions of Sharapak, and is peculiar in that it mentions both Sharapak and Atrahasis. In any event, it seems that Atrahasis was of royal blood. Whether he himself ruled, and in what way this world affected chronology, is debatable. Atrahasis, whose name means exceedingly wise, is the protagonist of an 18th century BC Akkadian epic, recorded in various versions on clay tablets. The Atrahasis tablets include both a creation myth and a flood account, which is one of three surviving Babylonian deluge stories. The name Atrahasis also appears on one of the Sumerian kings lists as king of Sharapak in the times before flood. The oldest known copy of the epic tradition concerning Atrahasis can be dated by colophon, scribal identification, to the reign of Hammurabi's great-grandson, Amai Saduqa, 1646 to 1626 BC, but various old Babylonian fragments exist. It continued to be copied into the first millennium BC. The Atrahasis story also exists in a later fragmentary Assyrian version, having been first rediscovered in the library of Ashurbanipal, but because of the fragmentary condition of the tablets and ambiguous words, translators have been uncertain. Its fragments were assembled and translated first by George Smith as the Chaldean account of Genesis. The name of its hero was corrected to Atrahasis. Henrik Zyman in 1899. In 1965, W.G. Lambert and A.R. Millard published many additional texts belonging to the epic, including an old Babylonian copy written around 1650 BC, which is our most complete surviving recension of the tale. These new texts greatly increased knowledge of the epic and were the basis for Lambert and Millard's first English translation of the Atrahasis epic in something approaching entirety. A further fragment has been recovered in Ugarit. Walter Burkett traces the model drawn from Atrahasis to a corresponding passage, the divisions by lots of the air, underworld, and sea among Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon in the Iliad, in which a resettling through which the foreign framework still shows. In its most complete surviving version, the Atrahasis epic is written on 3 tablets in Akkadian, the language of ancient Babylon. Some additions that was added thanks to this epic of Atrahasis for the Gilgamesh 11 is that Atrahasis III, the flood hero, was at a banquet when the storm and flood began. He invited his people to a banquet. He sent his family on board. They ate and they drank, but Atrahasis was in and out. He could not sit, could not crouch, for his heart was broken and he was vomiting gall. Then the flood story for chapter 11, Epic of Gilgamesh, may have been paraphrased or copied verbatim from a non-extant intermediate version of the Epic of Atrahasis, but editorial changes were made, some of which had long-term consequences. The sentence quoted above from Atrahasis III, lines 6 and 7, "Like dragonflies they have filled the river," was changed in Gilgamesh 11, line 1, 2, 3, to "Like the spawn of fishes they fill the sea." However, see comments above. Other editorial changes were made to the Atrahasis text. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, anthropomorphic descriptions of the gods are weakened. For example, Atrahasis QB 3, the Anunnaki, the senior gods, were sitting in thirst and hunger. That was changed in Gilgamesh 11, 113 to "the gods feared the deluge." Sentences in Atrahasis III 4 were omitted in Gilgamesh, e.g., "she was surfeited with grief and thirsted for beer," and "from hunger they were suffering cramp."